Hurricane season has begun, but cuts to America's National Weather Forecasting Service could make tracking these storms a lot more difficult. Our Chief Meteorologist, Natasha Ramsahai, joins us now. You've been digging in this topic for us. We've had conversations off camera. We've heard some of the concerns coming from the U.S. particularly and the impacts this could have when it comes to the accuracy of weather forecasts. But let's talk how this could impact or have impacts across Canada.
Yeah, so we want to localize it, but it's important to know that weather is global and all of the forecast models rely on global data. And the U.S. runs a lot of stuff. They have a lot of instrumentation, a lot of satellites in space. So, even things like your weather app, right? Everyone thinks, well, I'll just use my weather app, but it all relies and comes from the same place. And it all starts with gathering of information. There's been a 10% cut to weather balloons and radiosondes that are attached to them. And if you have no idea what a radiosonde is,
I was going to ask.
There you go. So these are the weather balloons. They are launched twice daily globally, and all of the information that is collected from the little box at the bottom of these balloons, they collect things like atmospheric temperature, humidity, pressure, wind at all levels of the atmosphere, and that is fed into supercomputers to generate this. So whenever we talk about weather models, this is what weather models look like. It's a whole bunch of maps and charts and isobars and upper level winds and stuff. We analyze these things to come up with your forecast, whether it's a human doing it like me for your 7-day forecast on CityNews at 6, or whether it's your weather app. We're all looking at these weather models, but they all, again, rely on the amount of data that's coming into them. So if we don't have the instrumentation that is in place, in other words, we need radars, we need the satellites, we need the daily weather balloon launches, now casting, all of the stuff that's happening now, like radar and storms, they all get refed back into these computers to generate these weather models. If the weather models are not accurate, we can't track things like this, these storms. We don't know where they're going to go. We don't know how strong they're going to be. And so that impact in Canada is that a reduction in accuracy is likely going to happen. I spoke to a colleague who is working at the Northern Tornadoes Project out at Western University, and he was saying they've already seen a reduction in forecast accuracy. The European model as well has seen a 10% reduction in accuracy. And so where a lot of people like to say, weather forecasters, they're always wrong anyway. That's actually not the case. It's about 90 to 95% accurate weather forecasts. Unfortunately, people will always remember the 5% that wasn't, but that accuracy is expected to go down. And unfortunately, it means like warning lead time for things like tornadoes could go down as well.
It's just one of the tools in your toolbox at this case. And we saw some of the images of the aftermath of these storms here. And in these situations, it's so critical to be able to track the path of the storms. We talk about it being hurricane season. I'm wondering what other areas outside of the day-to-day weather forecast could impact Canadians and Canada here.
Yeah, because it's one thing when we say it's going to be partly cloudy, but it's overcast, and people will get upset, right? But when we're talking about storms, and not just thunderstorms and tornadoes, but when we're talking about hurricanes, the forward motion of a hurricane allows us to kind of cut it up into 4 slices. We always kind of cut up these hurricanes into quadrants, and it's the right front quadrant that matters. And so when we're talking about where is the storm going to land on the coast, whoever's in that front right quarter of the storm is going to get the highest, biggest impact. So if we're also talking about the cone of uncertainty. Whenever you see the hurricane track, there's a cone around it. That cone of uncertainty is expected to be wider, and that's going to be a problem because the more confident we are in where the hurricane is going to go, the more confident we can be with evacuating the right people, right, at the right time. As these things cross over islands, is that island going to be in the right front quadrant? It needs to be evacuated. Is it going to be in the back left quadrant? Maybe not so much. But if we don't have the tools to be able to do this, or it's going to be less accurate, then we're going to start maybe evacuating people that don't need to be, and then not evacuating the ones that should be. We're talking about a whole bunch of research as well. There's a lot of research that goes on in Canada at universities that are funded by NOAA. So if that gets cut, if you can't do research, you're never going to see improvements in tools, in data, in models, and in accuracy, right? So that forward motion in improvement could be impacted.
And it's not just weather impacts,
Right.
right? Because the NOAA is also in charge of monitoring a number of sectors here.
Yeah, so think about the ground, right, including water. Anything touching the ground and up is generally under that umbrella. So, you know, we're talking about things like, if we're talking about Manitoba, every year we talk about the Red River flooding, right, and the basin. 85% of the Red River basin lies in the U.S. That river flows north from the U.S. to Canada. There's been a long-standing collaboration between the National Weather Service and NOAA and Environment Canada and ECCC, as they're known now. And if that collaboration and talking between the two people, here's the thing, if there's less people in the forecast office, they're not going to have time to collaborate. In February, there was also a mandate put in place that they needed permission to start talking to the Canadian side. You know, that's time, that's consuming, that's, you know, hours that they just don't have anymore. So things like fish, invasive species, climate change, the amount of ice on the Great Lakes, the warming, the snow squalls, all of these things cross borders, and they have the potential to be impacted here on this side of the border as well. So again, I'll just go back to collaboration between Canada and the U.S. is high. Research is funded on both sides. That's going to be impacted. And then we're talking about, you know, just the accuracy of any of the information coming through is going to be impacted. So I think we will start to see these impacts here in Canada.
Okay, that's unfortunate. I know that this is something you deeply care about, that you're deeply watching for us too. We'll continue to track the outcome of this. As always, our Chief Meteorologist, Natasha Ramsahai, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.